Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Adults Teens Need to Know. Who are you and what do you do? So, big news Ali is not here with me today because we're going to be discussing a little bit of a mature subject matter. But big news is that Ali and I are launching another co authored book called Wellness Wisdom. And today we kind of kick it off with our author interviews. So, a little discretion and disclaimer is that some of our audience are women and women who are entrepreneurs, either very busy with life, moms, and they might want to get pregnant. And you might be like, how does this relate to me? Well, it doesn't just have to do with pregnancy, and you're like, what is this, sex ed? No, it has to do with how do you keep your body clean and how do you deal with different toxins. And I'm here with a registered dietitian and certified functional nutritionist and one of our authors, Annette Presley. Hello,
Hi,
Annette. Hi. How are you doing today?
I am doing fabulous. How are you?
I am doing really well. Thank you so much for asking. So, I kind of did give a little bit of your credentials, but could you kind of start off with like who are you? What do you do? And, what's your mission here?
So Annette Presley. I've been a dietitian for 30 years now, and I love it. I basically got into nutrition when I was about 16. And then I just put nutrition down as my major in college. I had no idea there were jobs in it, but nobody said I couldn't, so I just went with it. And then here I am.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I feel like every teenager can just relate to when you get into grade 12 and you're like, let me write just something down for university. I love that. Thank you. Could you, so like I said before, I'm saying like pregnant and they're like, whoa, the key word there. But could you kind of tell us about what you do with the pregnancy, a little bit about your own story and all of that?
Basically, I make mommies. So I help women get pregnant. And I do that by helping them overcome genetic, environmental, and nutritional challenges that make conception difficult. And that way they can get their body ready to receive, hold on to, and nourish a healthy baby to term. And so I really focus on the outcome of a healthy baby, whereas a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people focus on getting the egg and the sperm connected. And
Yeah.
I don't think that's enough. Because we really do want healthy kids because they're definitely much easier for parents. But we also have to consider long term, healthy
Mhm.
kids will likely have healthy kids and on and on. So we want to kind of keep health going.
Perfect. Sorry, go ahead. You wanted
Oh,
to add more?
and so with myself, we had been married 5 years. And, after 5 years of nagging from my mom, we decided it was time to start a family. And I was just super excited because I've always loved kids, and always wanted to be a mom. And so I thought it would be really great. I figured it would take a couple of months to get pregnant, but I thought we'd have a lot of fun in those couple of months.
Mhm.
And so 2 months went by. We did not get pregnant. So I'm still kind of the eternal optimist. So I'm like,
Mhm.
well, I just need to up the game a little bit. So I started tracking my cycles and taking my temperature and figuring out when I was ovulating. And then I scheduled sex 5 days in a row
Oh, wow.
during my time of ovulation. And so I'm still thinking, oh, this will be fun still.
Mhm.
No problem. A few months of that, and I just couldn't hack it anymore. It was not
Yeah.
fun. Um, it was just awful. I mean, trying to get pregnant just consumes every aspect of your life. And it makes you feel pretty crappy when it doesn't happen, and you
Mhm.
kind of start wondering, well, what's wrong with me? I've got all the parts, like, why isn't it working?
Yeah.
And then it strains your relationship, and it's just a mess. So I actually stopped trying to get pregnant because
Mhm.
it was just too much for me. But then we tried it a few years later, and we have a son and a daughter.
Oh, I love it. I love the happy ending. And thank you for also sharing that story with us because like you said, it was probably a very crappy like few months of like constantly trying and now here you are sharing that story. So thank you. I thank you for your courage in that. There was one thing that really stood out to me and it was you explaining the technicalities. You're trying this, you're tracking the cycles, you're tracking the ovulation, but in the beginning, you were saying that you help people look at the environmental, the
Mhm.
biological reasons. So we're stepping away from the technicalities of, okay, well, how do I get a healthy child? What did you do differently? Like, what were those different aspects of the biological and environmental impact around you?
Yeah, so at the time when I was trying to get pregnant, I didn't know what I know now. Um,
Hmm.
so what I know now is that it's really our environment. Our biology is no longer a match for our environment, and
Okay.
so I kind of use the analogy of somebody's throwing darts at you, and if they throw one, two, three darts, I mean it's going to hurt a little bit, but you'll survive, right? But if they start throwing hundreds of darts and they just never stop throwing the darts, at some point you're going to be a bloody mess on the floor, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what the environment is doing to us. It's throwing darts at us, and I call these darts toxins. um,
Mm.
and so while everyone is focused on the mechanics of getting pregnant, getting that egg and sperm connected, the real problem is that these toxins are interfering with our biology. And so even if you get the egg and sperm connected, you might not have a healthy egg and your sperm might not be healthy. And
Mhm.
so DNA really comes into play here, because all these toxic exposures put stress on the body, and that actually changes the expression of our DNA, even in sperm and eggs and in babies in the womb.
Mhm. And with that being said, so I'm guessing like okay, the first step is to have a DNA test, but if you can't get a DNA test right away, what are some things that you can do to improve your own body's health? Like how can you get rid of toxins? What do we have to eat? What do we have to do?
Yeah, so the first thing I have people do is stop eating vegetable oils. So that's
Mhm.
things like canola, soy, corn, cottonseed, safflower, sunflower, and grapeseed oils. And those are in a lot of processed foods. So, if you get rid of the processed foods, you're doing pretty good. And you want to eat healthier fats like butter, ghee, beef tallow, lard, even coconut oil, olive oil, those are fine too. But you want
Mhm.
more of those stable fats. Um, and then another thing that you need to do is probably eat more salt.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah.
I just sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So there's actually an Indian tribe in Brazil. I think they're called the Yanomamo Indians. They have
Mhm.
a very low salt intake, and they, despite having a lot of sex and not using any contraception, they only have one live birth about every 4 to 6 years.
Whoa.
Yeah, so a low salt diet is actually like a contraceptive. And so you want to make
Mhm.
sure you're getting enough salt, but you want to make sure it's unprocessed sea salt, because
Mhm.
that doesn't have any toxins added to it, like bleach and different things like that. And then another thing that you can do is use Maine Coast kelp flakes, for some iodine, because a lot of us are deficient in iodine because of all the toxins in the environment. And so
Mhm.
those three are my top priorities: is making sure people are iodine efficient, they're not using the bad fats that are really inflammatory, and they're getting enough salt.
Mhm.
Plus, your
Perfect.
food will taste better too.
Yeah. I gotta add a little seasoning and some spice and really get it. I love that. And you know what I love about just this conversation as well is that it's not specific I mean, it is specific, but it also works for people who just want to stay
Hmm.
healthy. You know what I mean? And maintain that kind of healthy body versus, like you said, we're absorbing all of these toxins. Now, I kind of want to move into the emotional side of things because you were mentioning that it was kind of hard. I mean, how did you gain back that kind of self-love or even that determination to keep trying again?
Yeah, I think for me, stopping was just really helpful, because
Mhm.
I was kind of heading into a downward spiral. And the more I tried, and the more it didn't work, it just added on top and on top. So taking a break was probably one of the best things that I did, and really just having other things that you can focus on. And so, like for me, I loved my job. I've absolutely loved being a dietitian. I've never regretted that at all. So, for me, helping patients in the hospital was a great way. Doing research, was a great way to take my mind off of it.
Mhm.
And then a couple of years later, we were ready to try again. And that time, I didn't track my cycles, or any of take my temperature. I just decided, we're just going to have sex when we have sex, and if we get pregnant, great. But I'm
Mhm.
just not going to worry about it if I don't. And it took about 5 months, and we did get pregnant. Um,
Oh, okay.
so I think for me, it was just kind of a mind frame shift of not having to have a baby. Um,
Mhm. Just like
right then.
letting it flow kind of thing and
Yeah.
losing the expectations. Well, again, like thank you for sharing that because I think we can also apply that to how we live our own lives is that the more we chase things, the more it runs away from us.
Yeah.
Yeah, like to take a moment and to stop and say like, "Okay, you know what? I'm going to let go of the expectations. I'm going to work towards something else that I love, and if it comes, it comes." I really love that. And in your chapter because you're also we're going to move into this a little bit sooner is that in your chapter of our upcoming book Wellness Wisdom, you are also talking about the stress levels being one of those toxins. So what are some of your tips to lower your stress so that you can get pregnant?
Yeah, so one of the best things is to make sure you laugh every day. So, if you
Mm,
have to watch Schitt's Creek or something, whatever funny show is on, or find a joke book or whatever. But laughter is so key. Another really great thing is to go outside barefoot, even just for five
mm,
minutes on grass, sand, concrete. That grounds you. We call it grounding, and so it kind of grounds you to the earth, and it
mm,
actually can improve things like blood pressure, and it can lower your cortisol and things like that are associated with stress. So those two things are really important. Getting out in nature, and not and a lot of people strive, and I used to. I just used to go, 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 and I never
mhm,
stopped. And but you really have to stop and take some time and have some fun, and kind of let go of, thinking that you have got to do this right now, kind of a thing, because you probably don't.
mhm. Okay, I love that. Thank you. Those are 3 great tips, and I like how you said, walking barefoot. I always like whenever this is kind of bad, but, like, sometimes when we leave the gym, I'll just kinda be a little too lazy, like, if I have running shoes and I see the car that's, like, 3 feet away, I'm like, "You know what? I'm just gonna do it." I just, like, kinda run barefoot on the road, but that's okay. But that being said and, having fun, I think we don't hear that too often when it comes to like lowering your stress. It's like usually meditation and this and that, but just have fun. Be a kid again. Be fun, spontaneous adult. So I think my next question, kind of, and then we'll move more into the book, is you you created this mommy maker method. Like this is your business. So
Mhm.
you're not only just a dietitian, but you're an entrepreneur. So with your credentials and your experience, what kind of characteristics do you need to have to pursue something like this and to convince women and to like have people trust you? Like, what kind of characteristics make you a certified doctor entrepreneur?
Yeah. So I think courage is the most important. especially in the health field when you go against the status quo.
Mm.
I mean, I had to defend my credentials for telling people to eat butter instead of margarine. So I get attacked a lot. And so really you have to have that courage. You have to be able to stand your ground. You have to, just know that you know that you know, and have
Mhm.
confidence. And so I think those things are really important. And another thing is never stop learning. Um, so the more I learn, the more I realize I don't know. I mean, there's always more. And learning is also another way to keep you alive and thriving.
Mhm.
Whenever we get new information, it's exciting. So that's one thing I always make sure that I keep learning. And then, for the trust factor, I'm honest. I don't um, give all these wild claims about things, or um, I talk about things in a very honest way, and I present the evidence. And for me, there, with science, especially in the nutrition field, it's
Mhm.
not settled. And so a lot of people come at it as if the science is settled and there's one way to do something. And that's just not true. So
Mhm.
it's not settled at all. There's actually not a lot of really good science on nutrition,
Mm.
and so there's some wiggle room, and so we have to find the things that work well for us, and that might not be what works well for your best friend or whatever.
Mm, I like that. Could you kind of explain a little bit more on like how everyone is unique physically and biologically, and like how do we tailor our nutrition to our body needs?
Yeah, and so that's one area where the DNA test really comes in helpful, as well as other labs as well, because that really kind of gives you your DNA is like a blueprint that kind of points you in the direction of what might be going on in your body. And so with our genes, we have the genes we were born with, and those will never change unless you go into space. But I'm assuming everyone's grounded, right? Um,
Mhm.
but we can change the way those genes are expressed. So we can actually turn on genes that express for health and turn off genes that express for disease. And
Mm.
so the way we do that is by the foods we eat, changing the things we are exposed to in our environment, like getting rid of the toxins and that kind of thing. Um, so what I found, like that everybody needs to do, is number one, you eat real food. So whether you're plant based or animal based, you need to eat real food instead of processed food.
Mhm.
And then the other thing is the vegetable oils are highly processed. We've only been eating them since the early 1900s, and that's kind of when all of our diseases started happening.
Oh
We
wow.
didn't really have heart disease and all these chronic diseases before, but once we started eating all these vegetable oils, we kind of got obesity and diabetes, heart disease, and we haven't done made any dent in fixing those problems because we're still, eating vegetable oils.
Yeah.
So that's not very helpful. But then some people, so for example, I do not convert beta carotene to vitamin A efficiently. And so beta carotene is an antioxidant found in plant foods that can convert to vitamin A in the body. So the body
Mm.
cannot do anything with beta carotene. It has to have the vitamin A. Um, so vitamin A is not found in plant foods. It is only found in animal foods. So if you are someone like me and you can't convert the beta carotene to vitamin A, then a vegan diet is not going to be the right diet for you. You're not going to thrive on that diet. And
Mhm.
so those are the kinds of things we can see from your DNA.
Ah, okay, very nice. And I think when we also talk about um this might get a little political, but I've seen like a lot of women now who, because of like climate change and environmental disaster, are choosing
Mhm.
not to get pregnant or to have children, but they're also like going vegan because meat and, building a farm for cows takes up so much space and like pollution and stuff like that. So for people who want to start doing plant-based or veganism, how can they properly transition into that? Because like you said, everybody's different and there's certain things that your body just cannot turn into those essential supplements.
Yeah. So the first thing I would say is that, we have to be careful with the information that we hear because the
Mhm.
media has a narrative. Um, and I don't know if you notice this, but all the media everywhere says the same thing, pretty much. And yeah, word for word almost. Um, and so we have to realize as humans that governments are feeding us a narrative. Now, is the narrative true? Sometimes it might be, sometimes it might not be. Um, but then we have to look at what is actually happening because cows actually do not create a climate disaster. It's the way we do agriculture is the problem, and that goes for plants or animals.
Mm,
We don't do regenerative farming generally, and that's what we need to be doing, whether it's animals or plants. And so we really need to make sure that we're paying attention to like what is actually going on, what we're being told, what's more political than actual fact, and that kind of thing. Um, but what I tell people when you're trying to find a diet that you want to follow is pay attention to your body. So let's just say you decide to go vegan and you start eating vegan and your bones start hurting and your belly gets bloated and you have headaches. Okay, vegan might not be the right diet for
yeah.
you. I mean, I'm just
Yeah.
saying, you know, and vice versa, so
Mhm.
you don't have to suffer. So if you're suffering through all these different symptoms and everything, that's a sign that it's not the right diet for you. And so you have to go with what's right for you first, really,
Mhm.
before you decide to do something based on a political movement or um, something the government tells you.
Ah, very nice. What a great way to wrap this kind of discussion because and one of our Facebook users also says, "Wow, congratulations. Thank you. Thank you to those who have been watching. Lots of love and hearts and likes." And Latifa Baksh says, "Hi. Hi. Thank
Oh,
you so much." Annette, before we move into the book, where can people contact you and find you?
yeah. So my website is getpregnantplan.com, and I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and Pinterest at the Mommy Maker.
Ah, okay. I love the Pinterest board. Not everybody has a Pinterest board anymore, so I love that. Thank you. Okay, so now that we've kind of covered, the biological, the behind the scenes, getting rid of the technicalities, why did you choose to write a book, or like why did you choose to become an author?
So it's really always been a dream of mine since I was a little girl. I always did really well in writing class,
Mhm.
and I remember my sixth grade teacher actually sent a note home to my parents, telling them that they need to encourage me with my writing because I'm really good. And and of course, I did a lot of creative writing back then. And so for me, it was just something that seemed natural. I love to write, I love to read. And so it just seemed like a natural fit. But it's also a way for me to get my message out because a lot of people just are not aware that there are alternatives out there to conventional medicine. And they're suffering and struggling, and they don't need to be. And so that's one of my goals is really just to help people understand that there are different ways and different things that they can try that might actually help them achieve the health they really want.
Oh my gosh. Yes. I love that. And like I can see that you're an extraordinary reader. Like look at your impressive
I know.
bookshelf
And
right behind
that's
you.
only one wall.
That's all. Oh my gosh. I always have this dream where I'm like, I want to have my own library. And then I see other people's bookshelves. I'm like, dang it, it's not enough. Not yet. One of our guests here, our viewers, he said, Robert, he said, I have a Pinterest board still. Hi, Annette, and hi, Raisa. Hello,
Hi.
Robert. Thank you. I I think well, I have to say I'm very grateful that your parents encouraged you to keep on writing and to put your message out there because now we have one fantastic chapter in this book. So now you're working with some of your colleagues and some other co-authors. What do you think the impact of this book will be for anyone around the world?
Yeah, I think it will really open some eyes. Because anything that goes against the status quo is generally poo-pooed, and oh, that's woo-woo, it's not true, or it's not going to help you, or you're wasting your time. But I think
Mhm.
they'll be able to see um, from all of us that it's not a waste of time, and it's definitely not a waste of money. So it's actually going to make you feel so much better because there really are options out there that don't require you to have surgery or take all these drugs that cause side effects or inject, things into your body. There's
Mhm.
ways to do it that make you feel good and don't require, that aren't a hassle or painful.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, wouldn't it be great to be pain-free all the time? Like, just to
Yeah.
live your life? Oh my goodness. Well, Annette, thank you so much for, being here and talking with me and also talking to our viewers because like you said, it's going to open a lot of eyes but also open a lot of ears to listen to this wonderful information. I just want to say thank you so much for joining me. Thank you to our viewers who are watching. Make sure that you contact Annette if you have any questions. Reach out to her as well. And yes, thank you, Annette, for joining
Thank
me.
you for having me. This is fun.
Thank you. All right. So this was presented by APSO. Awesome people shaping our world. We will see you next Monday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time for another author interview for Wellness Wisdom. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.